And it's not even politics half the time, playing the part of Nikki Newman, Belinda Stronach, even though she didn't audition for the part. The media just handed it to her, and you know the story, right? Belinda Stronach helped rebuild the Conservative Party, ran for the leadership, lost to Stephen Harper, then jumped to the Liberals, relationship Peter MacKay, that whole thing in the papers. Paul Martin made her a cabinet minister, Liberals lost the election, and Stronach on the opposition side, and then, well, this hit the newspapers, and everybody went crazy. Stronach was named the other woman in that divorce application you've heard a lot about, filed by Ty Domi's wife, the same Domi, by the way, who just retired from the Leafs, number 28. Then you had the whole thing involving the affair, allegations, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the allegations are not proven, and Belinda Stronach exists. She insists she did not break up the marriage. So, are the headlines fair? Do you have to pay a tougher price? Certainly, if you're a woman, you probably do. And we'll ask because Belinda Stronach is right here. How are you?
Very good, very good.
So,
I'm impressed you said that all in one breath.
I did. So, what's new?
What's new?
What the hell? Since the last time we talked, all this is...
Yeah, well, lots is new. We've been working very hard in Parliament as the official opposition.
I don't think that's what they think I'm talking about when I ask that question. No, but let me ask you this. You knew this story was going to break, and when this... I assume you did. And how do you prepare yourself and your family and all of this for when you know this is going to hit the papers?
Well, I got to say, it was a bit of a surprise to me. And but I've also said that it's... something I really don't want to talk about. I believe it is a personal matter that's obviously very difficult between two individuals. And I guess I'd just like to say that, I've always tried to be a very caring and very sensitive person, and I've never tried to hurt anyone. And yet, on the other hand, I think you kind of said it yourself in a way in the intro that, as you know, George, nobody can break up a happy marriage.
But it's the kind of thing where you, and look, I say this, and I'm not going to give you a free pass on this, because life is life, and everybody makes their decisions, but not since Trudeau, I don't think we've ever talked about the sex life of a politician, ever. And the MacKay thing went on you hard, the Domi thing goes on you hard, and I wonder, does it change the way you act publicly? Like, knowing that this sort of thing hangs over you, that this is the way the media can be to you. Does it change the way you are?
Well, I mean, it changes it somewhat, of course. I mean, but on the other hand, how do I get through it? You stay focused on the job at hand and the obligation and responsibility and great honor that I have to my constituency, the residents of Newmarket and Aurora, and to Canadians. I made a commitment to enter public life. I know there is a cost to that your personal life does become more open, and not everything is based on fact. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is based on rumors or speculation or allegations, but that's something you just have to deal with, and you can't control that. And just stay focused on what you have to achieve.
I want to get to the politics in the House in a second. Do you look back at all the heat you took for crossing the floor and look back and say, God, I wish I had those days again?
No, I wish the shoes would come back, when they used to look at my shoes all the time. But no, on that note, I am glad that you asked me about crossing the floor, because that's something that I want to be very clear about. I have absolutely no regrets about changing political parties. I wasn't comfortable advocating Stephen Harper's principles then, and I certainly wouldn't be comfortable implementing those now. So I got criticized for it being a move of, one that I wanted to be a minister and a power move, but not at all. I'm very happy to be standing up for the principles that I believe in. With
the kind of attention that you got for that and this stuff, and you tend to be in the spotlight, I guess there is the other side of it that says you came from the private life, and most people didn't know who you were, and the media profile, in fact, allowed you to be in a position, at the very least, where you could run for the leadership of two parties. And so, because of all that media spotlight, it actually benefited you in a certain way. So is it just where you have to take the bad because it also provides you a lot of good stuff?
No, and that's very true. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you need the profile to be able to make a change and to be able to articulate your vision and what you stand for or what needs to be changed. But yet, on the other hand, your private life is exposed.
I'm one of those people who, and I'm probably one of 11 in the world, who actually watches Question Period on television and finds it riveting, which is a little window into my life. But I was watching a little while ago, and the debate surrounding women's issues, and it was kind of kicking around. Mm-hmm. My initial reaction was, oh, okay, here go the NDP again, bringing this up. And then I realized it wasn't. It was the Liberal Party that was really getting on this at a certain point. Yeah. This is something that you're tackling head on?
Well, I took over as chair of the Liberal Women's Caucus, and along with my colleagues, Maria Minna, Judy Scrow, and others, we've been very active on challenging the government in its latest round of budget cuts, where they cut the funding to the Department for the Status of Women by almost 40%. And To me, this is the one sole department in the government that's there to advocate and stand up for women's equal rights, and this government dared to cut what they call administration, but it's really into research, which is the foundation for policy for change.
But isn't it also the money that was going to lobbying and advocacy and then the government? And a lot of people felt that that money wasn't being spent properly in the first place, and maybe it would be better spent elsewhere.
No, I think this is actually very serious. What I'm seeing is a trend towards the depletion of resources that our government is giving to those groups to support our minority rights. We have a great Charter of Rights, but we also have put in place resources so that people that don't have the means can challenge those laws to make sure that their equal rights are upheld. So I'm very worried about that trend that I'm seeing. We see that equality rights, the resources to support that are diminishing, social justice issues, literacy, they cut funding for literacy when we have a big problem in this country. So we're seeing an erosion of the social infrastructure in this country slowly over time.
Now, there are lots of people who, though, would say that not just for the women's funding, status of women funding, but for many programs over the last 10 plus years of the Liberal government, that the money has been wasted, ill-spent, throwing bad money after good money, and then good money after more bad money. And so it's less about cutting back these programs and more about bringing them more in line with, like, accountability, which a lot of people feel the Liberal government, and they're still reeling from a government that appeared to be one that just ran the country without paying any attention whatsoever to accountability. Do we need some sort of check in place to bring it back in line?
I think accountability is a good thing. Greater transparency is a good thing. We should always be looking at greater efficiency. But we've also got to appreciate, and we can't take this for granted, we've had an economy that's doing well under the Liberal rule. We have prosperity. We have a very high quality of life. We've had surpluses, budget surpluses. And I think what we're seeing now, and we pay taxes. I don't think Canadians mind paying taxes. We should lower those wherever we can, but if it goes towards the common good. And what we're seeing now is that some of those monies dedicated towards the common good or the social infrastructure aren't being reinvested. Education isn't even on the radar screen, and education is so key to our future competitiveness in this global economy. It's not on the radar screen.
Why aren't you running for the leadership of the party?
Why am I not running for the leadership of the party? There's a number of great candidates that are running for the leadership of the party. I've chosen at this stage in my political career to focus on changing the system as to how we elect the leader for future conventions. I believe in this day and age we should have a one member, one vote type of system to elect the leader. If we really want to regain the trust and earn the respect of Canadians, allow them to purchase a membership at a very low cost. It shouldn't be a cost, shouldn't be a barrier to being, politically active and engaged, and then give those people the right to vote directly for the leader. When
you deal with your constituents and you deal in the House, does all this drama in your personal life in the papers, does that ever get in the way of that? Like, do you find that's what they want to talk to you about and they move on?
Actually, they don't always want to talk about that, but politics, it's one of those things where you rely on a team to get you there, you rely on many volunteers. So when things like this do hit the papers, and there are allegations that I'm going to say are unfounded, it does, to me, I feel bad for the people that support me and the volunteers, because I do take that responsibility very seriously.
You know there's a double standard when it comes to women. You actually have the double shot of double standard because, you come from a family of means and you're a woman. So it's automatic you're going to have to work harder, twice as hard to get any respect that a man would get. How are you working through that at this stage? Because you know that is the reality of the world, regardless of the fact it's 06. It's still the world we live in.
And I have heard that from many women in public life. It's unfortunate that in Canada, in 2006, we still only have 20% of women in the House of Commons. I think the country would be much better served by having a greater representation of women. The debates would be different. They'd be a more fulsome debate. So I'm working with my colleagues, I'm working with other women and men to say, how can we get more women elected? And looking from the grassroots up, but I also think it's a leadership issue. And when you look at the new president of Chile, for example, Michelle Bachelet, she named 50% of her cabinet
as women.
Who
are you supporting in this leadership campaign?
I've chosen at this stage not to support any one individual.
Who are you supporting?
And like I said, my energy at this stage is going towards changing the system, and I'm very hopeful that a motion will be brought forward at the convention to see that we have one member, one vote in the future.
Nice to see you, Belinda Stronach.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much for joining us today. There you go. All right, Belinda Stronach, this is going to be an awkward turn no matter how I do it. She's sitting right here. But did you catch the hockey game on Saturday night? Hit it!